Thank you. I definitely want to just first thank everybody at the Pankey Institute for the opportunity. I'm really excited to be presenting here today. I'm extremely passionate about the TScan technology and what it's done for dentists and for their patients as well. And so, when Lee and I were talking about this, we said, this would be really great to just give an overview of what the technology is and what it can do and the value that it has for you in your Pankey practice. So the best way we could think of doing that is to really get to the basics. So I'm not going to go really deep into things. We're going to have plenty of time for question and answers. I'm going to do some hands-on, but I want to talk about the who, what, where, when, why, how of TScan. I think that gives us the gist of everything that kind of you need to know about the technology. I want to first talk about TScan, the who, right? Who is TScan? So we are a pressure sensor manufacturing company. So we make sensors, electronics, and software that are used in thousands of different applications across the world. We actually have 4 different divisions. We're based in Boston, Massachusetts, and we have 4 different divisions. We have a test and measurement division, which focuses specifically on automotive, printing, sealing applications, and every car really that's designed today actually used probably a TScan sensor in that process at some point, which is kind of cool. We have an embedded sensing division, which takes our current sensor technology and it embeds them into a lot of different manufacturing devices. So you think of diabetic pumps, they use a TScan sensor, or not a TScan sensor, a TScan sensor. We have grip analysis or brake pedal design. There's all sorts of different applications. Another division of ours is our medical research division, which goes anywhere from applications from gait analysis to concussion testing, even the retail type applications. So if you've gone into a Walmart before or a Walgreens and you've stepped on one of those Dr. Scholl's machines that gives you a custom orthotic, essentially that's a TScan. That is a TScan sensor that you step on. So it analyzes the pressure of your feet and it decides, okay, because this pressure is here, you need this custom orthotic, right? Sounds a little bit similar to what we do in dentistry, but applies to the retail world on the medical side of our business. And then we obviously have our dental division, which is what we're going to focus on today. The reason why I want to talk about the who is TScan though is because it has a really unique history, and I think it's pretty cool for people to understand. So all of this, these thousands of different applications where these sensors are used, started in dentistry. Okay, I think most of you as dentists that are on this, there may be some non-dentists on the webinar, but you're inventive, you're innovative, and you have like an engineering mindset, right? And so Dr. Bill Manis, who was a prosthodontist at Tufts, was taking computer classes in the 80s, and he said, I'd love to be able to apply this to dentistry, right? How can I see forces on teeth? I want to see forces on teeth. And, luckily being in the Boston area, he had access to MIT, and this technology was developed at the labs of MIT and developed into what it is today, which is the modern TScan system that has just helped so many patients. And so this is a story that is something that I'm very proud of. I've been with the company for almost 15 years and have been helping dentists implement this technology into their practice for that period of time. So really over the last 5 years, I feel like TScan was well before its time when it came out. I would say really over the last 5 years have we come out with a product that is easy for dentists to use to help aid in the diagnosis and treatment of your patients. One of the things for you guys as dentists to be proud about is that, it's starting in dentistry today in like COVID-19 world. We actually, TScan is operating as an essential business. So some of our sensors are used in blood testing and virus testing devices. And that makes me very proud that we're able to help and do our part. And really, you guys should share some of that pride as well, because it really did all start in dentistry. So what is TScan? Let's get into the actual dental application here. TScan is the product and TechScan is the company. So TScan is a digital technology. It's a device where we have the patient bite down on a sensor, and it gives the dentist a video of that information, and it allows us to better analyze the patient's bite, take that information and make treatment decisions if need be. So what you're going to see on the screen, and I'm going to do a live demo just so that you know, I have the TScan hardware here with me, and we're going to go into the software. But essentially, the patient bites down on this thin film sensor, and we take a movie recording of that information, and it gets displayed on the software screen. What the information that we gather from that, the data that we get from the sensor, is really, there's three main things that we get. So we look at force on the teeth, we look at location, and we look at timing. So when we talk about force, we look at the percentage of force on each tooth. This tooth has 30%, this tooth has 5%. We look at the different colors of pressure, blue being low force, pink being high force. When we look at location, we want to see where those pressure points are on the teeth, on that patient's arch. And timing is really the one that moves you from looking at a static image of someone's bite to a dynamic movie of someone's bite. So the ability to be able to record the patient's bite as they close, as they slide right, as they slide left, as they chew, whatever it is that you want to do in your practice, you can record that information and then break it down to say, is there something that's rising in pressure early that I'm concerned about? Is there interfering contacts as the patient moves right or left that I'm concerned about? And so the timing aspect of TScan, the ability to be able to see the patient's bite in a dynamic way and have it be patient-specific information, is extremely valuable information. So let's go to the why here. So why is TScan needed? And I want you to think of TScan as a tool, and I want you to think of all of the other things that you do to analyze your patient's bite. So likely you're going to use study models, you're going to use articulating paper, you're definitely going to rely on patient feedback. So think of TScan as an additional tool, right? A tool that's going to provide you certain information that you're not going to get from these other modalities. And so let's just take an example here. So I'm going to stop this. So let's say that your patient comes in and they say, I have upper left sensitivity on my tooth, and you do your full workup, your full diagnostic workup. You decide, okay, what am I going to do with this patient? Just imagine that if you're not currently using the TScan technology, imagine that you had this additional information. So you said, I'm going to take a bite on my patient and I'm going to check it on TScan and just see what's happening here. And so this is a recording of a patient, and I'm going to press play. And what you're going to see is that very early on in their bite, very early on in their bite, they have a early pressure that comes in on number, if I can get this to not, okay. So they have an early pressure that happens on number 11. So if they had that sensitivity on that tooth, right, that would be really valuable to know that they've got an early premature contact that happens on number 2. And then actually, as they continue into their bite, they can see, let me just move this out of the way here so that you guys can see the columns. I might move it back. Hopefully that's okay, guys. So as I play this through, there's an early contact that happens on number 11. And then as the patient gets into their bite, that becomes the most forceful contact in the mouth, right? There's a heavy pink pressure on number 11. And so how valuable would that information be, along with everything else you're doing diagnostically to figure out what might be going on with the patient? So I would think of TScan in that way, is that's why it's needed, because it gives you this really valuable data that you can't get any other way. So let me, I'm going to move this back, this Zoom pictures back just out of my way. So let's talk about the where this can be used, right? And where is this data valuable specific to the Pankey Institute? So I want to just thank Lee and all the faculty that have helped with this, and a lot of alumni too that have come through that are using the technology. We've put together, you know, where the Pankey Institute recommends using TScan. And first and foremost, on your comprehensive exam or your hygiene patients. So, you know, to be able to gather baseline occlusal data, including TScan, is going to really improve and simplify your patient communication. So even if you're someone that's been doing equilibrations for 30 years and you're really good at it, TScan might be able to help you. It's going to be able to help you fine tune the bite, right? And maybe a little bit faster. But what it definitely will do, and what dentists that are using Pankey, faculty and alumni that are using TScan that are really good at equilibrations, they would say, right, but if I use TScan on my comprehensive exam and I use that information to communicate the patient's occlusal problems to them, that process and that patient understanding is so much better than if I had just done it without the TScan information, right? For some reason, patients have a hard time understanding the signs that you're seeing and how that relates to their bite. And this becomes an extremely valuable education and patient education tool. It's not the only thing it's good for. It absolutely is going to help you, but that is a major hurdle, I think, in the beginning of, you know, you've learned how to do occlusion, and you know your patient has problems, but they're not willing to move forward with getting it even analyzed more, right? Never mind. So TScan's a really simple way to communicate that to them. So I want to make sure that I spent some time, you know, going through that there. So if you're doing splint therapy, which most of you are, you would absolutely want to use TScan to fine tune and ensure that the splint is balanced. It doesn't matter what's in the mouth if it just measures between the two surfaces, whether it's a splint or a denture, it doesn't matter. If you're doing an equilibration, you'd want to analyze the patient's bite with TScan initially, and then you're going to use TScan during the equilibration to help you identify problem contacts that come up. And again, I'm going to go into the software, so I'll show you a few cases that highlight this stuff. Implant cases, it also applies to any restorative cases in general, but your implant cases, there are some, I'll show you an implant case when we go into the TScan software, but there are some really cool features in TScan that show you, they actually warn you if an implant crown is loaded early or loaded with too much pressure. And that can be really valuable because it's a quick check. Is this okay? Is this implant appropriately loaded the way that I want it to be? And then the last is really recall and maintenance. So anytime you've done dentistry on someone, and especially if you've adjusted their bite, you want to make sure that you're checking them, whether it's every 6 months or once a year. You guys can decide on how often that is, but you want to be able to track changes over time, and you want to be able to ensure that there aren't any small bits that need to be refined over time as well. So hopefully that gives you a clearer understanding of where the Pankey Institute recommends using the TScan technology. Okay, so now we're going to get to the fun part. So we're actually going to jump into the TScan software. So I think I should be able to do this pretty smoothly here. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see my screen. Maybe I just want to verify here that we can see. Dr. Macias, can you see the screen okay?
Yeah, I see it fine.
Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure before I continue on. Okay, so I want to do a couple things as we go into the TScan software. So I want to first just show you what the information is that you're seeing on the screen. And so when you take a recording of your patient and you have them bite down on the sensor, it's going to pop up in this format on your screen. You're going to see on this side of the screen, you're going to see the 2D information, the force information displayed on the patient's arch. And then you'll see that there's percentages of force on each tooth. There's right to left balance. So you can see that this patient has an imbalance of 60% on the left and 39.8 or 40% on the right. We also have the contacts are represented blue, are low pressure contacts, and it goes in a color scale up until pink. So it goes, blues, then your greens and your yellows, your orange, your red, and your pink being the highest amount of pressure. The other thing that you see here is a center target zone, and this what's called a center of force trajectory. So I'm going to show you a little bit more about that when I take a live scan, but essentially this shows us really leads us to where the problem contacts are, right? If you had a perfectly balanced simultaneous bite where everything came in at the same time and the same balance and pressure was on all the teeth, this center of force trajectory would be in the middle somewhere. You can see that this is off to the left, and it's likely because we have these higher force contacts that are here on the left-hand side. Okay, so that's the 2D area. So that's the information we get here. The 3D area is the same information, same data. It's just presented in a way that's 3D columns. And this is really valuable. Actually, patients love this view. So again, if you thought of this as a tool to help communicate occlusal problems to your patients, it's really easy to say, Mrs. Smith, you have these imbalances that are happening. Your tires are out of alignment, or whatever the analogies that you use. But we've got high pressure areas on your back left teeth that concern me, and it's causing your teeth to break down. Whatever it is that you would communicate to your patient, this data is going to help drive them. And give them a better understanding, really. So that's the data that's here. There's a number of different, I can go to the beginning of a movie and I can just press play, and you're gonna see the patient close down on the sensor and holding their teeth together. And then eventually they're gonna open. There's a third way to view the data, and some people are graph people and some people aren't. So a lot of our dentists, once they start using it, they love the graph area. So if I just describe this quickly, what we're seeing in the graph. So the whole recording of this patient's bite was 9 seconds long. That's this timing on the bottom here. So there was 3 bites that were taken. They closed, held their teeth together and opened, closed, held their teeth together, open, closed, held their teeth together, open. So this is really 3 bites that the patient did. And we can move this timeline to see exactly what happens. You'll see that they were very consistent in the way in which they bit all 3 times. So that is at least what you're seeing on the screen. I'm going to actually show you I'm going to enter myself in as a new patient, and I've probably been in here about 1,000 times. So bear with me while I come up with a new name. If you wanted to enter in I'll actually show you a case where you can add in your STL files to have it align with the TScan data. It's really cool, so I'll show you that as well. So I'm going to create the patient, and I'm going to click New Scan, and I'll show you the handle, this is the TScan handle, It is plugged into a USB port on my laptop, okay? There's a number of different functionality that exists on the actual handpiece itself. Then we have the sensors. So these are the sensors. They're small and large of these, and you get 20 to 25 bytes on each sensor. I know sometimes there's a question that comes up about the sensor thickness, and so I just want to talk a little bit about that. We, as a company, have an extensive amount of research that's been done on this technology for accuracy and reproducibility on the sensors, and we actually have the ability to manufacture a thinner sensor, but it won't, and the data that our preliminary tests, the data that we get from the thinner sensor is no different from the data that we get from the 100 micron sensor. So at this point, we don't want to have dentists have to replace this more often. Right now, you get 20 to 25 bytes on each one of these sensors. So if you used it on a comprehensive exam for your patient and you knew that they were coming back in for treatment, you can wipe this down and keep it for the next time that patient comes in. But we want to make sure that you can still do that and keep the durability where it is with the sensor. So I hope that addresses some questions on that, and I'm sure there's questions going as well. So there's also this little sensor support piece. There's small and large of these as well, and these just get autoclaved. So I'm just going to insert this into the handle, okay? And I'm going to insert the sensor. Try to do it backwards so that you guys can kind of see me, but a bit tricky here. Okay, I'm gonna lift the latch up. I've got 2 green lights, and as I press down on the sensor, you can see that I start to generate different force information. So again, blue is low force, and no matter how hard I try to press down on this, I can't even generate more than, you know, green. Maybe I can get to yellow and orange if I squeeze really hard. So I'm going to take a bite on myself, but first I also want to show you how that center of force trajectory works. So see how I've got equal contacts on both sides of the arch here, and that little red and white diamond is in the center. Well, if I have more pressure and I put more pressure on the left side, that red and white diamond goes to the left. If I put more pressure on the right, it goes to the right. And so that's how this calculates that center of force information. Okay, so I'm going to take a scan of myself. Don't judge how bad my bite is. Okay, so I took a scan. Oh, you know what? That's not my arch. That's kind of funny. Hold on one second here. Oh, that's kind of funny. Maybe I'm in here as another patient when I was testing something out. That is not my arch. Just so you know, I don't have a chipped tooth that's here, but maybe I was playing around with the software and did something there. But let me show you how this works. So as I came into my bite, I have a very heavy contact that happens on number 2. My bite is pretty well balanced right to left, but as I closed and held my teeth together and opened, and then the second time I bit, I closed and held my teeth together, and then I slid to the left. And so this is me sliding to the left. And what I know happens, and many of my dentist friends know happen in my bite because they've tried to get me to fix it forever. But it's too good of an example to change it just now. So I have an interfering contact, a balancing side contact on number 2. And then I also have some working side contacts on number 15 that my dentist would love to get rid of. So that kind of explains at least how it works from me taking a scan there. I'm going to close out of this. I'm not going to save that. And I'm going to go into this case. Okay. So this is a patient that is, they closed and then they slid to the left. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'm going to play the movie for you. So they come into their bite, and it's pretty well balanced right to left. There's obviously some heavier posterior contact that's happening with this patient. But this is where we want to look at what data is TScan providing us, right? So this patient is now sliding off to the left. And in an ideal situation, we would want to see this go up to the canine, right? We'd want to see the canine take the pressure and the posterior teeth disengage. What often happens with TScan is it identifies these small areas that as you move left, the back teeth, the pressure should be lowering, but what happens on TScan is all of a sudden you see something rising in pressure, and that's what happens here with this patient on number 15, right? So there's a contact on number 15 that we absolutely want to go in, and number 3, the dentist would likely go in, and I know in this case they did, they go in and make a correction to number 3 and number 15. They know that those are the areas that they want to go in and adjust. So it just pinpoints you to where there may be problem areas. And that's what Dr. Brady and some of the other faculty members talked about with where to use it in an equilibration, right? Is that it's going to pinpoint these problem areas for you. So if we look at what happens after those areas are adjusted, we've got less pressure on our back teeth. And as the patient starts to slide left now, we can get up to the canine and those posterior contacts now go away. They're not interfering in the same way in which they were dynamically as the patient was moving left and right. So hopefully, I thought that was a cool example. Hopefully that kind of highlights how one of the ways in which you might use it. I want to show the implant feature that I was talking about. So this is a patient that has, in the software, you can label that the patient has an implant. So there's a whole, you can set up the patient's arch, you can put in as much information as you want or as little as you want. This patient has an implant on number 4 and on number 5. And you can see that number 4 and number 3. You can see that number 3 has almost like a stop sign around it, right? Well, it's a warning. And so the software has identified that after they took a scan on the patient, that, wait a second, number 3, it's labeled as an implant and it's loading early, and it gives you the time point at which it's loading early. So let's just play this movie and see what that looks like. So the patient comes into their bite and they wind up having a heavier contact on number 3. And so what we would do, what a dentist would do is they would evaluate that, and they might say, you know what, I'm not comfortable with my implant having, 9% of pressure on it and a heavier force contact on it or an early contact on it. So I'm going to make that correction. And so this is an example of that being corrected. Okay, so you can see that now there's less pressure there, and number 3 no longer has that warning on it that it had before. So I thought that was pretty cool. Before we jump out of the software, I wanted to just show you that the STL feature. So you can, and not the one that didn't match up with mine. So let me just, and you can kind of disregard the name there. Let's open up the left lateral. It's kind of cool to see. Okay, so this is a patient that, and and I have permission to use their case, just so that you know. So this is the patient. They're in their bite right now, and we're going to see them slide to the right. And you can really see when you import the STL, you can see where those contacts are and how that lines up. And it's a really cool new feature of TScan. I think for people that have been using TScan for a while, there's no need to import your STLs, but I think that for dentists that are first starting to use it and that use digital scanners in their office all the time, it's very easy to import the scan and line it up. So yeah, that's a really exciting part, right? Because as things go digital, the TScan information is very valuable and different than the occlusal information that you might get from a digital scanner, right? We work very well together, but we provide different information than what your scanner might provide you when it shows you the occlusion. So something there to, so those are the cases that I thought would be valuable to show you guys. So let me jump back into this. So, so far we've gone through really when to use it, how it's used, what is TScan, who is TechScan as a company. I'm obviously very passionate about the company and about the technology, where the Pankey Institute recommends using it, and then also the why, which is the most important part, I think, which is why is this tool needed and what information does it provide that we're not getting from other places as well. So I have a few final thoughts that I wanted to make sure was communicated to everybody online today. This technology has been researched so much, and we have, well over 180 articles that support the accuracy and effectiveness of this technology. There's actually 2 full textbooks. Each textbook is actually 3 volumes. So there's these textbooks that are out there that were published that both Pankey faculty and alumni contributed to. And I think if you're someone that is looking for clinical application information, research, all sorts of stuff on the technology, please get in touch with me and I can make sure that I get you in the right direction for the information that you're seeking, because it is definitely out there. Just so much research that's been done on the technology and on its applications and its help for patients. The second thing is that we have an extensive key opinion leader network that can help you. So within the Pankey Institute and then outside of the Pankey Institute as well, we know that whether you are interested in the technology or you're someone that already has it but wants to review a case or needs help, you need clinicians to help you do that. And so we have a network of people that can help you. And so we wanted to make sure that we pass that on as well. Again, I'll give you my contact information, get in touch with me, and I will make sure that I can put you in touch with the right person. The third thing that I think is really important is to know that we as a company are here for you. So if you're not currently using the technology and you wanna talk to someone and do a virtual demo to see how it might work in your practice, or you want to do something with your staff so that they can learn about it and see if they think it will fit in your practice. Again, contact me. I will put you in touch with our regional managers that can do virtual demos for you right now. And it's a really great way, before practices start opening up again, to be able to get doing this. I mean, imagine if, you can implement something now, and when you can open again, be able to start right away having those in-depth conversations with your patients about their treatment options. I think that'd be really valuable. So we also have, for people that are TScan, they have the technology and maybe you just need a brush up, or maybe you need a software update or anything. We have a number of videos, but we also have one-on-one online training that we can do either with our trainers at the office, or they're not at the office, they're home, but or dentists as well. So I just want to make sure that it's very clear that we as a company are here for you, and we totally appreciate what dentistry is going through right now. We are all going through it. And I hope that it gets back to, you know, and thriving the way it has been for the last 15 years that I've been involved with it, at least. So Dr. Macias, I don't know if this is my contact information that's on here. I don't know if we just want to do open question and answer, or how you want to.
Yeah, I actually have some questions already that have been come up in the chat. I just want you to know I'm not Dr. Lee Brady. She has not grown a mustache and she has not lost hair. So just FYI, Lee, if you didn't catch up at the beginning of this presentation, Lee is in Arizona right now, and her technology is on the blink today because as they're doing Google Fiber in her neighborhood, so they accidentally broke through one of the of the internet cables. So yeah, so she is
not during my presence. No, I'm happy to be with you, Dr. Macias.
Well, thank you. So, Lee asked me if I would do this. So, so there were a few questions that came up, and so one of them, and I think there may be a little confusion as to what TScan does, because it was like, does a full arch scan as accurate as a full impression with PVS? And obviously, that this is not a scanner. This is
right.
Actually, so this is not a scanner. So I just want to let you know that all the people that have put in, I appreciate all of the questions, and I'm glad we might be able to clear that up. David Swan, a dear friend of mine who we've been together out at the Institute, David says, I always use the mirror image, the reverse right or left, since I picture myself looking up at the edge. And so I thought that was a good little.
Yeah, so just to kind of, when you're in the TScan software, and the left was on the left, there is a very easy way in the software to change that view so that the left is the right and the right is the left, the mirror image that he's talking about. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy when you look at it, when you always think how you're looking with your mirror versus what you see. Yeah. So that was a good little
I'm not in the mouth, right?
I like that.
So
yeah.
For me, I'm like, no, left is left.
Yeah, I'm always amazed that, you know, what we can do as dentists when we first start learning how to use a mirror. Right is left, left is right, up is down, and down is up. Yeah. I always find that interesting. The other question was like, would this be something? Again, that goes back to like more info than doing an iTero scan. I don't think iTero does this. So I think
so I can explain that though, because there is a lot of market confusion. You know, people are purchasing intraoral scanners, and the intraoral scanners provide you amazing digital information to be able to, you know, take a case and design the case, capture the STL file of the patient, and be able to then send that to the lab or do it in-house and design the restoration. And then, you know, you as the dentist are seating the restoration. In that digital workflow, TScan would be used on the front end to capture the occlusion information, and it would be used when the actual crown is delivered. So they work very closely together, but the occlusion information that we get from intraoral scanners is a calculated representation of the way the teeth come together. And so it's not the force on the teeth, and it's not patient specific, because, you know, we're taking it's different information. So they're used very often together, but not capturing the same data. So there's definitely some market confusion. For those people that ask that, you are not alone. We get that question often. And yeah.
Well, as a follow-up to that one, somebody did ask if can an older TScan unit be upgraded to allow the importation of digital scans?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're really fair. We have systems that were purchased a very long time ago that still have upgrade options, and so, you know, we try to work really closely with our dentists on that. So I would say to that person, just email me or call me, and I will put you in touch with the right person to tell you what that upgrade option might be depending on if you need software, hardware, or whatnot.
Awesome, awesome. Another question was, how young does a patient have to be, or I mean, how old does the patient have to be in order to use this properly?
Yeah, so we actually have, I think he might be on here today, Dr. Robert Supple. So you're not doing any treatment on the patient, you're just taking a scan on them. So the small sensors, Dr. Supple uses them from the time patients are kids, and he actually watches the growth and the development of patients and tracks those occlusal changes over time with with the kids in his practice. So there is no limitation as to the age. You know, even for your elderly population in your practice, if they have a hard time biting down on the sensor, we can adjust the sensitivity of the sensor so that we don't have to say, Mrs. Smith, bite down really, really hard, right, on the sensor or anything like that. Yeah, so there's no age range. I don't see there being any limitation of who could use it.
One of the questions was, is this compatible with a Mac computer?
Yeah, so like many other technologies in the dental industry, you can use the TScan on a Mac. You have to be able to have a program that can run Windows on that Mac, which we have a number of offices that do that and are very successful with it. Just to give you an idea of the data, so when you take an intraoral scan of a patient, you're talking very, very large files of data. With TScan, it's really like 30 kilobytes, like really small data, because it's not actually images. It's you know, it's just the data from the sensor. So yeah, there's no storage issues on most laptops. It's fine, and you can certainly run it on Mac. You just have to be able to run a Windows program.
One question was, does a patient need to have a perfect U-shaped arch in order to use the TScan?
No, nope. So you can adjust the patient's arch appropriately to fit whatever it is in the software. There's all different types of customization that can happen in the TScan software.
Right, right. And this has come up a couple of times in its questions is, how do you sterilize the TScan? And I don't know whether they're talking about the sensor itself,
yeah,
whether
sure.
that can be used, or the actual what holds it. So
yeah, totally. So there's a number of different ways. So the actual handpiece itself can be wiped down with a cavity wipe. So that gets sterilized the same as other technologies do in your practice. This piece here just gets autoclaved. So this can be done however you want it to be. And the sensor is one per patient. So you can wipe it down, but you're not going to use this on more than one patient. And so you could wipe it down and save it for the next time they come in, or you can choose to throw it away.
Okay.
Hopefully that answers the sterilization.
And the sensor is per patient, right? I mean that
one per patient.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't reuse that on several patients, obviously.
No.
Somebody had asked that question.
Yep.
Okay. The other one was, there was a question about patient closure, that if they close where they close incorrectly, and then you just don't know whether they're closing correctly. And if they're closing based on a deflective contact in the second molar area, well, they automatically shift their jaw. And so this has been kind of their example that they've actually witnessed by using the scan.
Yeah, sure. So I can answer that. So there's two main things that we teach people when they start using TScan. One is how to take a good scan. That's very, very important. And the second is, you know, once you take that scan and we know it's a good scan, what does that information mean, right? And how do I apply that to what I'm doing? The how to take a good scan is extremely important. So there's ways in which we set up the sensor support to align against the patient's front teeth. If you wanted to, as many people do in different occlusion philosophies, they want to actually be able to guide the patient into their bite, and so they can do that. And that's entirely up to you as the clinician. If you practice with the patient, you know, as long as they don't have a different bite each time, you should be able to get a repeatable bite on the TScan.
Okay.
Hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, that kind of goes into the, go ahead.
Let me just ask one question. So for whoever asked that question, if that didn't fully explain it and you need a more clinical answer, just please email me and I will put you in touch with someone that can answer. I'm not a dentist.
Well, thank you, Jen. Thank you. The other one was, does the TScan work with all intraoral scanners? Can you upload
as
those
long
files?
as you can get an open STL file from that intraoral scanner, you can then import it into the TScan. Yep, we're open.
There was one question that said, what would the timing goal be to get the red and green lines to meet up? And what does the black line mean?
Okay. So what this question is relating to is that timing force graph that was on the bottom of the screen. And the green is the left-hand side of the arch and the red is the right-hand side of the arch, right? So if you had a perfect 50-50 bite, those lines would be directly on top of each other. So there has been research that has been done, significant research on the time that you want it to take from first contact to maximum intercuspation, and then also from when the patient begins their excursion to when they reach anterior guidance. And so that concept of disclusion time or occlusion time has been researched heavily. And those are some, that information is also automatically calculated in TScan. It's an advanced feature of the TScan, and that's something that we can talk about with whoever asked the question. We can show you how to measure that, how to look at it, why it's important, what it means. But essentially, if you think of the concepts behind that, if you get into your bite faster, you have less interferences, right? If you get out of your bite faster, you have less interferences. And so, yeah, that's certainly...
And they can contact you as far as like what cost and whether you buy direct through TechScan or through a distributor, correct?
Yeah, so in the US we sell direct, and we have a sales force that can certainly answer those questions. We have a relationship with Pinkie that we provide Pankey alumni or people that are on this webinar special pricing. So absolutely contact me and I can put you in touch. Sure.
There was one question that said, do the scans stay the same if a deprogrammer is used prior to the scan? I would think that the forces would be less if you used a deprogrammer. And,
I think we have many doctors that use a deprogrammer first and, you know, allow the muscles to relax and then take a scan. And yeah, you would get different, I would guess you'd get different information. So
that would be a good before and after to try to check that out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Somebody asked a really cool question. I like this. Is can we see forces on the lower teeth as well?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. So I only showed it's collecting information of when the two teeth meet together. It's displayed on the upper arch, but it can very easily, there's a quick icon button that lets you see it on the lower arch as well. So either upper and lower together, upper alone, or lower alone. I just didn't want as much to be on the screen.
And I know that you have been a wonderful example by not having your interferences adjusted.
So bad.
But somebody wants to know if you're becoming symptomatic. So
I am not, you know, but I'm turning 40 this year, and I'm guessing my dentist friends are like, if you start getting headaches and you start, right? But it's something that I need to get taken care of.
Then maybe you could actually do your before and after.
I know, right? We should live stream it.
Yeah, a live stream. That would be good.
Yeah.
Good. Think of TScan as a digital articulating paper and more. It's awesome, somebody said, so that's awesome. And it says, I thought that you had to always list missing teeth and width of centrals for proper alignment on the screen.
Yeah, so there's a few different ways that we customize the patient's arch. If you import an STL, you can just align that appropriately. It's very easy to do. If you don't, you can customize the patient's arch. As much information as you want to put in there. You could actually measure each tooth and plug it into TScan. We definitely want you to measure the central incisors to set up the patient's arch based on the golden rule proportions. But again, you can put in as much information or as little as you want, depending on how you're planning to use the information.
And somebody asked a question, what have you seen has been the difference between offices who are successfully using it and those who are not? Or is there any common denominator there of those that are doing better at this than not?
I mean, it's really hard. I think that every practice is totally different. I can tell you that TScan is one of those technologies that people often put on their list. They hear about it and dentists put it on their list and they say, oh, I'll get to it at some point, right? And what I can tell you is that from the people that buy it and learn how to use it, we consistently hear, and I've been hearing this for a long time, that like, Jen, I've been working with you forever on this, and I wish that I had done this sooner. I wish I had done it 5 years ago when I first saw it. And I think once people start using it, they also become like really, really, really passionate about what it has done for them in their practice. So you could go to our website. We have a ton of testimonials of people. I don't want to put words in people's mouths of the differences between, because I think there's great dentists that use it and great dentists that don't use it, right? There's no, but I think that it will make things easier. It will provide you additional information that may help in many different ways. Yeah.
So somebody asked, what would you recommend for using the TScan in multiple operatories?
Yes, so
it's basically plug and play.
Plug and play. The system, the software gets stored on your network, and the hardware just goes from one operatory to the next. We have offices that have, 10 TScan handles. It's you can just use one and move it from operatory to operatory. It's very easy to do. So yeah, absolutely. That gets just stored on your network. And
somebody asked you could save the sensor for the patient, the same patient, just use
you can save the sensor for the
and again, to clarify, how many times can they use the sensor per patient? About 20
to 25 bytes. So it's been researched that it's the most accurate between 20 to 25 bytes. The thing is that the sensor, if a patient has really flat teeth, you may be able to use it more than that, right? Or if they have really sharp cusps, you may be in the 20 range and not in the, or if you don't polish the teeth and all of a sudden you have the patient bite. I mean, they do perforate in time. But I think that what has been researched is 20 to 25 bytes per each sensor.
And if you'll learn, if you get out to the Pankey Institute anytime in the future, in which once we get going in E2, you get to actually see the TScan in real time and actually work with it. So that'll be good. I know that when I was teaching at E2 with Steve Malone, we actually did do this and did it on each other. So that's a good thing to have done. Well, Jen, we were coming down. We've got about 2.5 minutes left. Is there anything that you want to finish up with, or is there anything that and then I will, before you leave, I'm going to give you the closing code just to know that there was a start code and then a closing code. But I want to thank you, Jen, for everything. Anything last that you want to express here?
I just want to really express my sincere gratitude and just thank you guys. Thank the Pankey Institute, Lee, you, all the faculty, alumni. It's such an amazing place for people to learn about occlusion, and I've been a part of it for a long time, and I just think that I just want to say thanks. It's such a great opportunity to be here speaking in front of your audience, and really appreciate the partnership that we have.